Hello and welcome to Yesterday's Airlines. In today's ranking video, we're going to take a look at the JC Wings February announcements, which came out 4 or 5 days ago. I know it's still January. It's just the way it works. So JC they had an okay 2024. It wasn't spectacular, but as I've said multiple times in the videos, I think we're going to start seeing more variety and more interesting releases from JC Wings for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I know that their agreement with Gemini has been modified. They can make more classic North American material. Secondly, I know that they're also looking at using more of their molds, more interesting molds in their mold catalogue. And thirdly, they are also looking at making a wider variety of airlines and also going back through models they've made in the past or in 200 scale even, and applying those in more modern versions in 400 scale. So I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff coming from JC this year, and I have to say that this set of models illustrates that to a degree as well. It's a good start. I think there's some good, interesting diversity in this set. It certainly blows anything Gemini are doing out of the water. It's a interesting group of models, both temporarily and across aircraft type and across geographical locations. So that's good. There are 21 models in this set, and in keeping with previous sets, half of the set are models that you're likely to see soonish, and the other half are future undated releases. This has become more evenly split recently. I think that's because JC are gradually thinning out that old back catalogue warehouse stock, and that's good as well because it means you're getting more up-to-date modern models as opposed to more models they forgot they made a decade ago and have only just found in the warehouse. So half of this set are going to be out soon, and some of them have got pictures that are already available, and the other half are not, and they'll be out sometime in the distance. So what we'll do is we'll start with the set which are going to be out soon, and we'll move on to the future releases after that. Before I do that, as always, if you don't subscribe to the videos and to the channel, then you're never going to find out the news. So subscribe to the channel, especially if you like the content. Chuck a like on the video too. Always appreciated. Thank you very much to everyone who does that. Follow me at Yesterday Airlines in Instagram and Facebook, and of course yesterdaysairlines.com. Now this week I've been covering quite a lot of Patriot models. I did a video review here on the channel for their DC-1010 prototype. If you haven't seen that, have a look. And I also just published a written review for the fire tanker version. Both those are awesome models, and that's the kind of content you can get at Yesterday's Airlines for free. So follow and subscribe, and let's get on now and see what JC have got for us. Well, it's not going to be February, but you know what I mean. Soonish, they are the February announcements. Okay, so 10 models make up the immediate releases, and the first model up is the only Airbus in this group, and it is an Airbus A330 in the colours of Qantas VH Echo Bravo Victor. This is not in the current Qantas scheme, this is the scheme beforehand, and it is in One World colours as well. And we've got some pictures of the model, and it looks perfectly nice. I just wish the undercarriage was a bit taller on these JC Wings A330s, and especially the main undercarriage. The aircraft just tends to have a tail down attitude, which is completely not in keeping with what you should be getting on an A330, which is a shame. Otherwise the mold is okay, you know, it's not a world beater, but it's certainly not a disaster. There have been a few of these one-wheeled A330-200s previously. This exact registration has been made in the past, though it was quite a long time ago, and it was by Aero Classics in 2017. Phoenix also made it, that was in 2013, so it's a long time ago, and this one is well worth a re-release. I think this will be a decent model, but it's not a great model. So I'm going to put this one up into Workhorse. That takes us straight out of the Airbuses even, and into Boeing territory, and we have a couple of American releases now, and this is the sort of thing I think we'll be seeing more of from JC Wings now that they can produce more classic American material. And first up we've got a Continental Airlines 737-200 N10248 in the Globe scheme. Now, this is a model that has been made previously, but it's only been made by Aero Classics, and that was in 2015, so it's been quite a while. I can't say I love the Gemini 737-200 mold that's going to be used here. It's very old, it isn't spectacular, but it's not an appalling mold either. Much like the A330, you know, it's not so bad that I wouldn't buy it if I didn't already own the Aero Classics version, which I do think is a better model. So I'm quite interested in this move towards more American classics from JC. Don't love the 737-200 mold here, but it's still not bad. I'm going to put this one up into High Flyer. The third model is also an American 737. This one's a Series 500, and it's always good to see 500s. We don't get that many of them, and the reality is that it's really the only mold on the market. So I really am quite glad to see 500s getting releases now and then, and there have been a few from JC in the past few months, which is nice to see. This one is Southwest Airlines. It's wearing the Desert Gold scheme, but you barely notice that because it's got the Shamu SeaWorld of California covering the majority of the fuselage here, the killer whale. Now, this is obviously not PC anymore to talk about killer whales and have them at SeaWorld and so on and so forth, but it looks pretty cool on the aircraft, and this should be a nice little model. Again, it has been released previously, and I already own the Gemini Jets version, but that is from 2004, so that is super old and quite hard to get hold of. So this one I think will be well sought after by a lot of collectors of Southwest, and I think it should turn out quite nicely on the updated 735 mold with the aerials. A good little addition. Again, put this one up into High Flyer as well. A minor regression now comes next, because the next model is yet another Atlas Air 7478 freighter. We've had so many of these. This one is N860 Golf Tango, and it's got this tiny little 30th anniversary sticker on the front of the aircraft. Otherwise, it looks just like all the other Atlas Air 7478s that we had. And looking here, we've had well over 25 of these things. So they're not uncommon. Lots of them have got tiny little special schemes on them, but not particularly impressive ones. There has also been a release of this livery with the 30-year sticker by NG. They did an 861 GT, but you know, it's such a small sticker you barely notice it. Anyway, I'm just going to put this one into Workhorse. Model number 5 is a model which I should really be interested in, but I'm kind of struggling with. As always, these 767-400s by JC and Gemini, yeah, they're such a disappointment because I'm so annoyed by the low quality of the mold, especially because JC has been producing some really nice liveries on them. This one is in Boeing house colours. It's got the leading the way scheme, and the scheme is really attractive. It's one of the best Boeing house colours. I think it's great. Unfortunately, it's just applied on this really mediocre 767-400 mold which JC have produced, and I just don't understand why it's such an ordinary mold. They've produced some really spectacular molds for other wide-body brands, 777s and such, 787s, and yet this 767-400 is so, you see, the undercarriage is the worst thing. If they could replace an undercarriage, I probably might go near it, but it's not just the undercarriage, let's be honest. I'm going to put this in the Workhorse because I really like the livery, but much like the Continental version they released just a month or two ago, I can't bring myself to buy it. It's a shame that other manufacturers have kind of largely forgotten about the 764 model or aren't using it very widely. Panda and NG, please get onto that and start releasing Continental and this lovely house colour scheme, because they're both models I'd like to buy, but not on this model. Model number 6 is a real uptick in the releases here, and the non-Boeing and Airbus models this month are particularly good, I think. This one is an ATR 72, so that's good in itself. Lovely little mould, always good to have props. It's in the colours of British Airways, the World Tails, it's the Irish column tail. Technically it's being flown by City Flyer Express and not by BA, but it says BA on the aircraft. GBY Tango Papa. This should be an excellent little model. We don't get that many ATRs and we don't get that many European ones, certainly, and certainly not many G-Reg ones. So really pleased with this one. I think this will be an excellent little model. This one's way up there for me, and one I almost certainly will acquire. I'll put this one up in the Supersonic. The next model is also a regional, which is exciting me. It's the first use of the CRJ 1000 mold for an Indonesian version, as I think I may have talked about in last month's JC video when they produced another Iberia. One of the main operators of the CRJ 1000 was Garuda Indonesia, and this one, PKGRA, looks really nice from the pictures I'm seeing, wearing the SkyTeam colours. It's not the standard livery, which I am certain is going to be coming, but may be coming as a retailer exclusive rather than a JC brand. But this one looks great, and I'm quite keen to get hold of this mould and see what it looks like in person, I have to say. Indonesia is a focus area for my collection, so this one fits quite nicely. I think I will get it, and I'm quite excited by it. Looking good. Good to see some more Indonesian material coming out there. Nice to see some more unusual aircraft types. So I'm going to put this one up as Supersonic as well. I think this is a nice selection. Model 8 is another classic, and this one is Lockheed Electra. Now, I can't say Evergreen International is necessarily the Lockheed Electra that I want to see. The reg here is N5535, but hey, it's better than nothing, isn't it? I have got a lot of Lockheed Electra models, and they are mostly using the Aero Classics model, which actually isn't as good as this one. But I can't see myself going through and replacing all of my Electras, I admit. Now, if there was some American Flyers, that would be awesome. Evergreen's not quite so interesting. But it's great to see some props. Even better to see classic props. I'm going to put this up in the High Flyer. The mold's good. Great to see the material. Just Evergreen doesn't quite float my boat from an airline perspective. Model 9 takes us back to Indonesia. So it's a model I'm going to be interested in straight away. It's also an MD-80. This is, these are both winning combinations from where I'm sitting. And we have here a Lion Air MD-80. Or is it an MD-90 in fact? It's an MD-90. My mistake, I thought it was an MD-80, but it's not. It's an MD-90 PKLIK. Now this one, it's even better as an MD-90 because the mold's better than the MD-80. Now this one looks awesome again from the pictures of seeing the model. Really pleased with this. Lion operated quite a selection of MDs in its earlier days before it switched fully to 737s. And it's nice. It's really nice. And this isn't the only McDonnell Douglas from Indonesia that's been released recently, because there are some new Wings Air versions that have been released for Airshop Diecast, and I'm in the midst of trying to get hold of those. But this Lion Air will go super nice alongside those. Great to see some Indonesian material from the 2000s. And yeah, can't say anything bad about this one. It's looking great. So I'm going to put this one up in Supersonic as well. This one is perhaps, from my perspective, more exciting than the ATR and the CRJ, I have to say. And model number 10, ending the soon-to-be-released models, is another interesting but slightly obscure aircraft. This one's a Saab 340, always fabulous to see Saabs, and the mould is a fabulous little mould. The airline is quite obscure. Saint X Cargo, flying in DHL colours. It's Mexican registered XASTX. So it's in the DHL scheme. Now there are lots more Saab 340s I'd much rather be seeing from JC. I mean, we've never really had Crossair, for example, one of the most important all-time operators of the type. But it's still a good choice, and it's nice to see. I assume that these cargo liveried airlines like DHL sell reasonably well, so I think it's a decent choice. I'm going to put this one up in High Fly. It's not quite, for me, hitting the Supersonic, but I imagine for some it might, and it's well worth getting, I would expect. So that finishes the 10 models that are going to be out in the near term, and there's a really good selection of aircraft types there, and a really good geographical selection as well. We've got Europe, Asia, America, Australia. Excellent. So can't argue with that. They're doing that right. Moving on to the future models, things aren't quite as exciting, but there's still some decent choices here. So let's quickly go through those, and I'm going to try and go through these ones super quick because, you know, I can't see the actual models and I'm not sure when they're going to be out. So first up, we've got yet another Korean A350. You know, as always is the case when you've got a new aircraft type entering service, you get lots of the same manufacturer, or lots of manufacturers making the same aircraft. So it's HL8598, Korean A350. The mold here isn't as good as the other brands, or at least not as good as AB400, which has put their announcement out already, and Phoenix have announced too. You know, I'm just going to put this on the workhorse. It's not exciting me. Next up, we've got another Eva Air 777-300 in these Hello Kitty colours. I'm pretty certain I talked about this in my very last video. So this one, again, not exactly, you know, thrilling me, and hey, I'll just put that on the workhorse as well, even though the mould is really good for JC Wings. And the third is Japan Airlines. It's an MD-11 JA8584 in the delivery Jaybird scheme. Great livery, looks good on the MD-11, but obviously the JC Wings MD is now a bit obsolete in comparison to the new Panda version. So I'm going to put that one into workhorse as well, I think. I just don't think I can be putting these up much higher now. We've got better competition on the scene, and I've hoped to be doing some reviews of the Panda MD-11s soon. Model number 14, the fourth of these future models, is quite unusual. A bit surprised by this one. It's an Olympic Airlines A300-600 SXBEM. Now, the only A300 mold that JC have access to is the old JetX mold, the same one that was used not long ago for an Emirates release by Gemini. The mold is very aged, let's be honest. It's got an enormous seam and quite an ugly one in comparison to the Aeroclassics A300. They've modified the undercarriage and aerials, not necessarily successfully. I can't say that I'm particularly excited by this or loving it. I'm going to put that one into Gas Guzzler. Number 15 is a SAS A340-300 OYKBM in the Star Alliance scheme. The JC A340, similar to the A330, it's not the best mold on the market, isn't a bad mold nonetheless. There's only been, I think, one Star Alliance release in the past, and that was back in 2012 by Aeroclassics. This one's well worth making. I think it'll look quite good. I've actually preferred JC A340s in the past to the A330s, and I'm going to put this one up in the high flyer. Model 16 is an airline which has been largely forgotten, and probably deservingly, and that's the reincarnated version of German Wings after they got rid of the nice livery. So this is an A320, and it's DAIPT. It's got this really boring Lufthansa Group scheme on it, which looks like it's designed by committee. If designed is a word you can use in association with it, I'm not sure it is. The mold is mediocre, or at least ordinary. It's not great. The livery is boring. I'm going to put it into workhorse as well. But I do admit it's never been made before, so that does add a little bit of something, but not a lot. Number 17 is another China Eastern Comac 919, and we keep on talking about these every video. So I think Panda are releasing this, Phoenix are releasing this, NG are releasing this, and then JC are releasing this. Their mold is fine. Yeah, but I'm not interested in it any more than I was in the other ones. I'm going to put this in the workhorse too. Model number 18 is actually quite a cool catch. This one is a New Zealand 777-300ER. It's got this slightly boring all-white livery, which is kind of ironic considering the All Blacks. And the reason for that is that this is an ex-Cathay machine which Air New Zealand has leased in, and I believe it's probably done so because of issues with their 787s. But it's pretty cool nonetheless. It's going to be a great mould, the JC 777, and I think this one will look really nice. If you're an NZ collector, then you'll almost certainly be interested in getting it. It's even tempting me, and I kind of only dabble in modern New Zealand stuff. So yeah, I like the look of this. I think this one should be nice. Put this one up into high flyer. Model number 19 is Riyadh Air 7879 HZR X-Ray X-Ray, and this is the first aircraft they've had delivered. It's in their current or their secondary scheme. I'm not sure which is, this is probably their primary livery really. And I think this aircraft has been delivered only as a technical backup aircraft, so it kind of shows how much money you've got if you can buy a 787 and just sit it in reserve. So I don't think they're actually going to fly this one in service, and even though it's their first aircraft, I don't think Riyadh Air are going to begin operations with this frame. Nonetheless, the delivery is really nice. Yeah, I'm not an enormous Saudi Arabia fan, as you guys know, but I think the scheme here is attractive, looks really good on the 787. I'm going to put this one up in the high flyer. Nobody else has announced it either, though I'm sure that will change soon. Likewise, model number 20 has got this beautiful livery on it. It's Malaysia Airlines, it's an A330-300, Visit Malaysia 2026. The scheme is called 9M Mike Tango Juliet. It looks really, really attractive. It's a really cool scheme. This is like a lot of those Chinese schemes I like. You've got national elements like the flag, you've got some nice landmarks. It just looks really attractive. So even though it's on not the best A330 model in the universe, I still think it'll turn out really nice. And again, I'll put this one up into high flyer. And that leaves us with just one more model to talk about, and this one is a Kuwait Airways A330-800. They've already made one Kuwait Airways A330-800. They made APF in last year. This one is APG. I don't expect it to be, you know, particularly more exciting than the last one, though. I believe it's got some kind of special scheme on the back end of it, Khaliji Zain. I don't know what that even is, and I can't bother to look it up. It's not a great special scheme, just titles. I'm going to put this one into workhorse. There have been several Q80 A330-800s recently, and this one is unlikely to be more interesting than the previous ones. Okay, so that was a whistle-stop tour through the future JC Wings announcements. But overall, what we're ending up with when we look at this release set is a lot of diversity, a lot of interest. It's not all just Asian stuff. There's a good mix of Europeans, there's a good mix of North Americans. This is how you can produce a nice balanced set, and we've got a really nice range of molds being used here as well, from classic props like the Lockheed Electra to kind of less classic-y props like the Saab to newish props like the ATR. And similarly, you know, you've got the CRJ 1000 plus an MD-80, even though they're both actually roughly fit the sort of timescale in both these Indonesian models. Then you've got some classic 737s. It's a really good set of models, I think. I'm really pleased to see this from JC Wings, and looking at the set, you know, there's 3 or 4 of these models which I probably will get, and it's not been too often recently I can say that about JC. So I'm really pleased with this set, and I'm really pleased with this direction that JC Wings are going in. I think they probably deserve a bit more praise than they get, a bit more exposure than they get. For all those people fawning over some of the other release sets from other brands, I think that this set is as good as pretty much anything I've seen this year to date, and there's some really nice stuff here. So yeah, well done JC Wings. I think there's some good things here. The only thing I would like is to see some mould improvements for some of these, especially those 767-400s, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But overall, I'm a happy man with this set. I think it's good. Interested to hear what you guys think, and if there are models here that you're interested in, so chuck a comment on the vid if there are, or if there aren't. And as I see JC Wings' partner, Gemini, has just announced themselves a February release set, and then no doubt there'll be a video upcoming next week or so to take a look at that. Okay guys, that's it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed that quick look at the JC Wings February announcements. But that's it from me. For now, I'll see you next time.